Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Azrin, the language nerd here, owner of the Calgary Language Nerds, and welcome to today's YouTube video and, of course, podcast episode. This is another Let's Learn Gujarati with me. It's been a little while since I've recorded an episode because I am currently traveling. As you can see, if you're watching this on YouTube and not listening on the podcast, you can actually see by looking around me here. It's actually a bit of a mess behind me a little bit, but sorry. This is not the typical background that I've had in the previous episodes. So I'm currently in Taipei. Taipei is a city in Taiwan. I've been here since the middle of July, and so I arrived here on I believe it was July 17th or July 18th, and then I'm going to be leaving, going back to Canada on August 24th. A fun fact about me you might not know is I live abroad usually for about 1 to 2 months a year. When I live abroad, I'm not a tourist per se. I don't necessarily go to all the tourist attractions, and I don't treat it as a holiday. I treat it as me living abroad. What that means is I try to have as regular of a life as I can. I will try to find some activities that I sign up for, whether it's language classes, volunteering, things of that nature. And I'll try to maintain somewhat of a regular schedule. I still record podcasts and videos and things of that nature. So here I am in Taipei. I'm here doing some Mandarin studying. So I take some classes. I do some casual practice with friends and people I know. I try to go out of my way to make new friends and practice with new people. I attend language exchange events where I help people practice their English and they help me practice Mandarin. I'm living with the homestay family. So I'm actually living with a friend of mine, her husband, and her 2 kids. And so it's a very intensive focus over the next, it's about just under 6 weeks, ultimately, 5.5. I've been doing that for the past 3 weeks. It's 3 and a bit now. I'm more than halfway through the trip. And yeah. So today we're going to continue. I'll share my screen for those watching the video. For those just listening to the audio, no worries. You can sit back and listen in a relaxed fashion. Today we're going to continue our series on the Gujarati alphabet, and today we're going to focus specifically on 2 letters. They are arguably the 2 hardest letters in the Gujarati alphabet. But the good news is I'm going to break down step by step today exactly how to pronounce them. Now, the first one here, as you can see on the screen for those watching the video, this letter is ra, as in the word Pani. Pani. Pani means water. Okay. We have other words with ra as well, such as haran, haran. So this is an ra sound, and many people find it quite difficult. So let me walk you through step by step exactly how to pronounce it. It's actually relatively straightforward. I don't want to say that it's easy, because I don't necessarily think it is easy. But I do think that we can break this down into steps. And I think that these steps are things you can practice at home. And I think if you practice these steps, you should have at least a reasonable chance of being able to learn this letter. Okay, step 1 is I want you to say na, 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 na. Just like the letter N in English. So almost like, I'm going to type on my screen for those of you on YouTube, kind of like saying the word no. When you say no, the N in the word no, that na, 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 na. I bet you can all do that. A very easy sound to pronounce. So na, 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 na. Okay, that's step 1. Now, I want you to repeat na, 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 na. Maybe even do it slowly. You can say na, 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 na. And as you say na, 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 say it on a loop. As you say it, pay attention to what part of your tongue you are using. So go ahead and do that now. Say na, na, na on repeat and pay attention. Is it the tip of your tongue? Is it the middle of your tongue? Is it the back of your tongue? Is it the sides of your tongue? Where is your tongue touching? Is it the bottom of your tongue? What part of your tongue are you using to say na, 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 na? If you've done that, you probably tell that it's something near the tip of your tongue touching what's called essentially the alveolar ridge. If we use technical terms, na, 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 that's touching the alveolar ridge. It's a place in your mouth, essentially. And you're using the tip of your tongue to pronounce that sound. Now, the most important distinction here is the na sound, as in the letter N in the word no. This is a sound that uses the top, listen carefully, the tip of your tongue on the top side, meaning where your taste buds are. When you eat food, the taste buds part of your tongue. That's the part of your tongue that is touching the roof of your mouth to pronounce the letter N, the na. So what we're going to do in step 2 to pronounce this Gujarati ana sound, what we're going to do here is, in step 2, is I want you to curl your tongue backwards. Now, what does that mean? Well, I want you to use the bottom of your tongue and not the top of your tongue. So for those of you watching the video, you have a slight advantage because I'm going to do a demonstration here. So I'm going to stick my tongue out. Okay, here it is. I'm going to point to the tip of my tongue right here. Okay, that tip of my tongue is what you use to say the typical English N, the na sound. What I want you to use is this part of your tongue. Down here. So it's for those on the podcast and that can't see what I'm doing. Basically, what you're doing is you're gonna use the tip of your tongue, but the underside of your tongue, that's the part of your tongue you're going to use to say this Gujarati ana sound. Pretty strange, right? It's particularly strange for English speakers, for example, because English, to my knowledge, all of the sounds we make with our tongue use the top of our tongue and not the underside of our tongue. But now we're going to use the underside, the tip of our tongue on the underside, underneath. That's the part of our tongue that we're going to use. So step 2, to say the ana sound, it's a simple 3-step process. We're at step 2. Step 2 is straightforward enough. I want you to say na, but I just want you to flip the tip of your tongue. Point the tip of your tongue backwards and have the bottom of your tongue touch the roof of your mouth. And you're going to say na. It sounds exactly the same, really, but you're not using the top of your tongue anymore. For those in the video, you have a slight advantage. I'm going to come close to the camera and show you here. Look at my tongue. Can you kind of see? I hope you can. Please don't laugh at me. I know this is kind of ridiculous, me putting my mouth up to a camera, but it's for educational purposes, okay? So notice how my tongue, you can see the bottom of your tongue. There's almost the muscles that are straining almost. You see that? That the muscles are almost straining because I'm actually turning my tongue, the tip of my tongue, just the tip. It's actually pointing backwards. Right? It's curled extra far back. Okay, I can show you, actually I can't, unfortunately, but that's what you're doing. You're curling that back, and then I want you to say na, but just make sure the underside of your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth, not the top side of your tongue, the underside. That's the most important thing, even if you're on the podcast and you can't see what I'm doing. If the top part of your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth, you're not doing it right. The underside of your tongue, where there are no taste buds, that's what's touching the roof of your mouth, right? Na. That's the most important thing. Underside of your tongue touches the roof of your mouth. In a sense, let me think if this is true. Actually, yeah. What's interesting is it almost doesn't matter what percentage of the bottom of your tongue, the underside of your tongue, is touching the roof of your mouth. If you have a magical tongue where you can get almost the entire tongue on the roof of your mouth, you'll still be able to pronounce this ana sound. In fact, it might even help you a little bit. So get that underside of your tongue on the roof of your mouth. You probably just need the tip, but if you get more than that, that's okay. So that's step 2. And then you're going na. Last little tip. While you're doing that, it might help you to put lots of pressure. It might help you. If you're struggling to get that N sound, that na sound, using the underside fleshy part of your tongue, feel free to put some extra pressure on the roof of your mouth to get a nice clean na. Okay? Now we get step 3. This is where the magic happens and we get that ra sound, that ana sound. So what are we going to do now? We're going to keep that position where the bottom of the fleshy part, the underside of your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth. We're going to keep that, right? We're going to have that your tongue up there. And then instead of just saying na, 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 you're going to flick your tongue forward a little bit. While you say na, 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 you're going to flick your tongue forward. Almost like, you know, it's like the tip of your tongue. So listen carefully, really try to picture this. I wish we can get a camera in my mouth so you can just see what I'm doing. But picture the tip of your tongue pointing towards the inside of your throat, almost like you're going to swallow your tongue, almost like you're going to swallow. Almost like your tongue curls backwards into a wave, like an ocean wave, and is going to go down your throat like a snake. I know it's a bit of a strange visual, but it's like you curl it backwards, right? Curl it back, right? Towards the roof of your mouth, and you push it back. And then it's almost like a spring where it pushes forward and you flick your tongue forward. And when you say na, that na, but again, na with using the underside of your tongue, and then you flick your tongue forward while you say na, what you end up getting is na, 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 na. You get this ana sound, like as in pani. Pani means water. You get that sound. Does that make sense? I hope that was nice and clear. Now, let me share my screen again for those watching the video. We're going to switch to a very similar sound. And this sound is ara. Ara and, yes, ara. Let's go down here. Okay, it's way down in the alphabet, almost near the end, pretty close to the end. We're going to do them together because they're actually very similar. Here we go. Ara. Now, ara, how do we pronounce ara? Well, it's basically the same steps. Step 1, you're going to say na, 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 like the letter no. Or like the letter N in the word no. Very straightforward. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to curl our tongue backwards, just like we did for the previous sound, the previous letter. We're going to curl our tongue backwards. We're going to place the underside of our tongue on the roof of our mouth. Okay, and we're going to say na, 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 but we're going to use the underside of our tongue. And now step 3, this is where things change just a tiny bit. The sounds are really similar. If you can say ra, you can say ara. You can say ana, the first one we did. You can say this sound, which is ara. You can say both if you can say the first one. So now that your tongue, the underside of your tongue is touching the roof of your mouth, what you're going to do now is instead, listen carefully, instead of saying a N sound, the na sound, and flicking your tongue forward, I want you to say an L sound, like la, 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 la. I want you to say an L sound while you flick your tongue forward, not an N sound. So you're going to get something like this. Ra, 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 ra. That's the second letter here. That's the ra sound. So again, the only real difference between ana is the first one we did, and the second one here, ara, they're essentially the same sound. In layman's terms, the only difference is that for the second one, the one on my screen now, the ara, the only difference is that in layman's terms, this one here, instead of trying to say an N, quote unquote, you're saying a quote unquote L while you flick that tongue forward. So again, underside of your tongue touches the roof of your mouth. You're going to flick your tongue forward and try to say a la sound, but again, using the bottom of your tongue. In more technical terms, ara and ara, these two sounds, they're actually they're the same identical sound. The only difference, if you're more technical into linguistics and phonetics, but if you're not, it's perfectly fine. Just use the previous explanation I gave. For those of you that are interested in phonetics and linguistics and that more technical side of things, the only real difference between ana and ara is nasalization. Ana, the first sound we did, is nasalized. We have some air flowing through our nose. Ara is completely oral. There's nothing going through our nose. There's no nasalization happening. And ultimately, in layman's terms, in order to create that, all you're doing is you're just going to try and say an N for the first one and an L for the second, because the N is going to force some nasalization. The L is going to, well, do the opposite. So that's today's video. As I said, only 2 letters, but the good news is they are arguably some of the hardest letters in the Gujarati alphabet. So those are out of the way. Next time, we're going to breeze. Let me actually scroll back up here on the video. Next time, we're going to breeze through quite a few letters We have, here we go. We have a couple letters that are a bit tricky. We have the, ta, the, and the, which we'll do next time. Those are a little tricky, but they're medium on the difficulty side of things. Medium. They're not the hardest. Then we're gonna have some really easy letters that we have in English already. Na, ba, fa, ba, ba, maybe a little tricky, maybe, right? Ma, ya, ra, ra, some people think is hard, but I can teach you how to say it. It's not too difficult. I can teach you relatively quickly. Ra, la, easy. Va, easy. Sha, another sha, easy. Sa is easy. Ha is easy. Ara we did today. Ksha is pretty easy. Gna is pretty easy. So the good news is the rest of the alphabet is either medium difficulty, but really the majority of the rest of the alphabet is actually it's actually very easy. Very, very, very easy, and you'll be able to say it automatically. So next video will be the final video on consonants, and we'll wrap those up. Thank you guys for watching. Appreciate your attention, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye. Outro.